Right, so it's Monday morning and someone's just dropped off this beautiful Taycan. Customer complains that during Kickdown, or rather after Kickdown, he experiences a loss of cold air from the aircon. So we're gonna have a look here in a moment. Let's see. Okay, that was a little bit of a Kickdown. Nothing much has happened so far. Still got no idea. Let's see. Kickdown. Hey, there we go. Electrical system fault. That's gonna be it. We do have power, but the aircon is definitely not blowing cold anymore. So here's gonna be our fault. This is why I test drive every single car before repair to make sure that what the customer complains actually matches. So now we've got a red light here. I'm gonna restart the car. That's probably gonna clear the fault, and then we can go on back to the shop and do some diagnosis. This fault is gonna be caused by some high voltage component, be it the DC-DC or the PE, the inverters. It could really only be either of those two. So right now we can do some measurements back at the shop, and we will know for sure which one is causing our problem. In this case, I'm rather inclined to believe that it is the PEs, be it the front or the rear PE, over the DC-DC, just because the fact that the fault manifested itself after Kickdown, not during it. Right, so we are back at the shop now, taking a look at the car, and here on the PWIS, inside the DC-DC, we've got two faults, one relating to 400 volts, one relating to 12 volts. But we shall not be misguided by these faults. Perhaps an experienced mechanic would think that the fault comes from the DC-DC itself. But even though the fault codes show in the DC-DC, this has nothing to do with the DC-DC. I can tell already that it has nothing to do with the DC-DC. Right, so this is the entire high voltage system of the Porsche Taycan. Here we got the high voltage battery. Here we've got the PDC heater, aircon compressor, and that's gonna be the DC-DC assembly. Right here at the front axle, we've got the front engine with that box at the top of it, which is the inverter. Rear motor assembly, we've got the gearbox motor, and that box at the top, which is the rear P, which is what I suspect has failed in this car. So now what we're gonna do is grab our meter and do some measurements. To be sure which one of them has failed. Right, so we are at the back of the car in the trunk. We've put our own cable into the rear PE, and now we're gonna use our meter in the capacitance mode, and we're gonna see how much it measures. Normally it should measure at least 800 UF, microfarad, but in this case we're getting 380, which is less than half. It's definitely below factory spec. And it's even below the minimum threshold, which is 600 UF for the rear. Right, now we're gonna take a look at the front, and it's measuring 234, which is below factory spec, which would be 400 UF for the front, and it's also below minimum threshold. Right, so the only way to get this job done is to drop the entire rear axle of the car. That's the PE right on top of the motor, and there's no other way around it whatsoever. Because the output of the inverter is bolted into the input of the motor. So without dropping the axle, there's absolutely no way you're getting that PE out of there. The front, however, in spite of Porsche's repair manual calling for the front axle to be dropped, we can do this job through the frunk by removing every single component in there, same as replacing the aircon compressor, so we can get it done, saving a lot of labor hours for the customer, which ultimately saves him money. Right, so we are back. We have now dropped the entire rear axle of this Taycan. We've got the high voltage battery right here. And on this part, we've already dropped the axle. We've taken the electric motor out of it. And this is the motor. This is the gearbox. On the right side of the motor, on the left side, if you look at it from the back, this is the gearbox, 2-speed gearbox on the Taycan. And this is the PE. We've already installed our unit for this customer, brand new unit from Porsche. So now what we're gonna do is put the engine back on the axle, and then we can start assembling everything back together. Here on top of the battery, we've got the front PE, front inverter, another brand new unit from Porsche. As I said earlier, Porsche repair manual calls for the front axle to be dropped, but we do it through the front, saving the customer some money. So here the guys are putting the motor back on the axle. Here we've put the motor back on the axle, and well, we're done with the rear axle. We're ready to put it all back in the car, put the car back together, and we'll get the car back on the road, so the customer will be happy. Right, so here we've got the car, put it all back together now. We've changed the rear and the front, and as you can see here, we've got the tool to put pressure into the coolant system. Now we use the P-Whiz4 to bleed all the air out of it. Very important step. Okay, so right here with our P-Whiz Tester 4 tablet, inside the TME, Thermal Management Control Unit, we go through the bleeding of the coolant system procedure. Every time it takes 30 minutes, and after such a big major repair, it is recommended that we do this procedure at least 3 times to be 100% sure that there is no air left within the coolant system of this car. It is a quite complicated coolant system, so we really don't want to save time on this step, because any air left behind within the coolant system could ruin our otherwise successful repair. Right, so here she is back up the road, foot to the metal. Let's test the kickdown. 110, 120, 130, so far so good. No electrical system fault so far. Braking, nothing yet. The aircon is still blowing pretty cold air. Right, so it's looking like after 4 years for this customer, his car is finally repaired. So back to the shop and off to the customer she goes.